Yeah. Okay. Good morning. This is the CLUE session, and it's the first. Um, and this is also the first session of the meeting here in Dallas. So there are some new things here. The first one to note that there's a sign says here that please inform the speaker to stay within the pink box on the floor. Now, if you're wondering, the pink box is now white. So there's a box there. Mostly it's because of the new echo, so they can see there's no more. That's not the presentation.
And there's no electric wire or socket or anything to step out. It's candy still connected to step out. It's connected.
Okay.
So do I start to introduce?
Okay, and okay. The other is that, by the way, this is the first meeting where both Dan and I are chairing this working group. Paul is not here, but he's on the in the Jabber room, as well as Rob, who is not here, is also. So I will be doing his presentation. Now let's start with the agenda. So first of all, the Note 12. I hope everyone is still knows all that, and if you are aware of any IPR, you have to let anyone bring to announce it, and everything is specified there. The next slide is the agenda. So we'll start with the CLUE status updates from the chairs. Simon will present the protocol and the XML schema. I will present the CLUE signaling document, and then the mapping the RTP stream to CLUE media captures. I will also be presenting that one. Any comment on the agenda on today's agenda? Now, go to the next slide. We have a time slot on Thursday, and hopefully I think that we will not need it, which means that we will also try today to discuss, after we finish the presentation, how to progress the work in order to have the plan in order to finish the work in the working group. We were hoping to be done by this meeting, but we are sure would like to finish working group in last call, the documents, and finish the work by the next IETF before the next IETF meeting, which is in July. Okay. Any comments on this one? So we'll after we finish, we'll discuss whether we need. I don't think we'll need the Thursday session, so we'll be able to cancel it, and we can do some more meaningful stuff. Okay. So now for the document status. So the framework is went to finish the working group last call. Hi, Simon. Finish the working group last call, and it is now ready for publication. So after the meeting, my intention is to do the write-up and to send it to IESG for publication. There are no known issues. I hope, does anyone have something to say about it? Any last-minute comments before we close this document and be done with it? Okay. So the just before that, I forgot to say we have two note takers, and I thank them. It's Keith and Brian that's taking the notes, and Jonathan is in the Jabber room. So he never. You'll have to allow for a lot of space, Jonathan. Okay, the uh, the CLUE protocol data channel was version 0.9, also finished the working group last call, and all the issues were addressed. There are no known issues. The only thing that's keeping us now is that it has normative reference to 5 non-RFC documents from other working groups, including draft IETF and music data channel SDP and MEG. And we think that it may be good not to send it to publication yet, because anyhow it will get stuck eventually waiting for all those documents, and to be sure that these documents will not be too much of change and may require more changes in the document. At least this document, the channel SDP negotiation, was a decision we took in the previous meeting to use this method, and we are very dependent on it, because otherwise we have to go to other mechanism to open the data channel for the CLUE. Yes. Okay. Yes, Keith.
Yeah. So just on that dependency specifically, I mean, I don't think there's anything much to worry about there. That's a big change. Just for the benefit of the other notes. What I was going to say is that in music, I was going to ask for another couple of reviewers. So if anybody wants to stand up, if you've not already looked. So I know several people in this room already have been working hard on the document and reviewing it. It would be nice to get a couple of independent people, when it's fresh to the eyes, to go back and look at that document. Once that's done, then I think we're actually ready to work with the last call. There's a couple of things we still need to fill in, which we'll do very shortly after.
Okay, and this is a good point. I think it will be good if people from this working group will look at it and see that it's in line with what we designed. It's mostly, first of all, it's Christer, of course, but of course all of. Yeah, that's okay, but I mean, at least that we know that it's in line with what is in the document, so we don't have any issues with using it in our protocol. It will apply also. This probably applies also to the signaling document, where you have where you're also probably referencing the data channel, and but have the examples about opening the CLUE data channel and all the information about it. So we need to see that it will be okay. Okay. All the other. So the plan. So does this plan looks okay? That we'll wait for a while before sending to publication, just to be sure that there are no issues that may require some changes based on all those normative references. So the chairs will follow those documents and verify that when we can send it to publication based on what we believe they are mature enough in terms of the reference, and eventually it will get stuck there. Richard, we have Richard here, and Richard is stepping down as an area director.
Yeah, so Richard Barnes. So yeah, I have, this is one of the groups for which Alyssa's been responsible, so I haven't been following it closely, but generally this plan that you're talking about of holding the data channel document until its references mature seems pretty sensible, especially given that there's sort of a plan for getting ones. It's good to avoid late surprises, and any compat changes after IETF last call would be painful and probably require a re-last call. So
yeah,
this seems
because anyhow
like
it may come back to the working group if there are issues there. So that's why we keep it here. So that's what
I think this is a sensible thing.
Okay. Now, okay, but Richard was not the area director for this working group, responsible for this working group, and we also were not the chairs for this working group while he was area director. But anyhow, we decided that since you're stepping down, we'll give you some present from this working group, and this present from the payload working group that meets later this week. So you're getting a nice Israeli wine, which probably you don't even have to read in Hebrew, you can read in English.
I just wanted to make a quick comment on the plan.
It is on. We can actually hear.
Okay, good. I'll just do this, then I can hear myself. Is there like a specific milestone for the other documents that we're going to kind of use as a trigger point, or we're just going to kind of wait until they look stable? I was just wondering.
Okay, so
We have 5 documents.
we talk it on the next slide.
Oh, so you have a more specific.
We have a general. That's what we said. That's what we said in the beginning. That we will probably want this week, after this meeting, to come out with a plan to finish all the other documents during the time period before the next meeting.
I'm fine with waiting for them to become more mature because it's just a pain in the neck if they change in ways we don't expect. I was just. It might be good though to have a specific working group last call, or is it IETF?
Oh, where on the other?
On the other 5 dependencies.
No, but the dependencies are not from this working group. They are from different working groups.
I understand that.
So we don't have any control about.
Right. So at some point they reach how will you know they're mature enough? Is my question.
I think the major concern, the major concern is this music document. The other documents are also required for the RTC web. They're all this definition of the how you define the SDP for the for the data channel. So that's not. I don't think they are stopping us now. The major one that we would like to see get better feeling about that it's mature is this one. That's why I put this one's name. The SDP negotiation is the one that's more crucial for us, because this is just dependency for us, because the RTC web did choose another way to address the opening of the data channel.
So I guess the answer is just when the chairs believe it's mature enough, they'll start the process. Not that there'll be a trigger.
And that's what we'll see in music, and I think that's what the point that Keith was making about
the CLUE chairs.
Hmm? No, I was saying that that's the point that Keith was saying, that it's probably he thinks that it's mature enough, and he will ask for music to do working group last call pretty soon. And the moment when it finishes working group last call, we can say that.
Right, that was the answer I was wanting to hear.
Okay.
When it finishes working group last call and then music, then we will start the publication process here.
Yeah, because that means that it's also going to publication, so we don't have to worry about too many changes afterwards.
Yes, that makes perfect sense.
Okay, but it's basically this document.
Yeah, the point is that if it weren't for these references, we would consider it done and ready to go to publication. Okay, so we're just waiting for the references to become more mature, meaning work group last call.
So we'll encourage Keith to yeah, of course. Okay. Okay. Now all the other working group documents will be presented here in the meeting. We will look at starting working group last call or early working group last call based on maturity of the documents. After this meeting we feel that how people feel about all those other working group documents, and we will ask for volunteers on each document to review each of the documents. We'll do it after the presentation of the document. I would encourage people to volunteer to review, and we'll take names for that. Next slide. Okay, that's already we decided. And it's time. The only thing is it's about time to finish the work. Now the last point we want to make here, go to the next slide. I loaded it. Oops. Yeah. Okay. Do you have the document? I sent it yesterday on the email. Okay, let me see. Sorry about that. The thing is that we got a liaison statement from 3GPP SA4, and we intend, and I wrote a response to that. I sent it to the list also to review just yesterday, but I also asked Gonzalo and then reviewed that, and they said that it looks okay as a response. So that's one. So we respond for they asked the IETF-CLUE to inform us for the progress of CLUE work group on any media handling aspect related to CLUE protocol. The response is based on the document had some points that they are interested in, and I tried to respond to all those points. And the first point was a media codex. What is CLUE doing about it? So CLUE doesn't recommend any specific codec. The topic is out of scope for the CLUE working group, and the IETF, the RTC Web Working Group, recommend the Opus codec for speech, and I gave the reference. Okay, I'll see. And both H.264 and VP8 for video, and I added the reference for that one. Media configuration, including session setup and control procedure for IMS-based telepresence and media provisioning aspects of capability negotiation based on SDP and CLUE protocol. That was their interest, and this is a major, from the CLUE perspective, this is a major focus of the CLUE working group, as specified in the CLUE working group charter. The following document define these topics: the framework, the signaling, the protocol, and the data model schema. There's a short explanation. And setup and control of individual media stream between clients, including interactivity such as adding and dropping of media component, as well as end-to-end QoS handling for IMS-based telepresent. Again, this is not in the scope of the CLUE working group. The support for setup and control on individual stream is based on the tools available as specified by other working group like AVT Core, AVTX, Payload, and Music. So we are not doing this specifically here. Data transport, including usage of RTP, RTCP protocol, RTP profile, payload formats, RTP mapping, media synchronization, and so on. So this topic is discussed in the CLUE signaling document, and some aspect of mapping RTP stream to CLUE media captures are discussed in the RTP mapping. Requirement and guideline for media adaptation in IMS-based telepresence. For example, response to changes of network bandwidth. This is not in the scope of CLUE working group. A general solution for congestion is discussed in the RMCAT working group. So they should be aware. And this is, I think, this is the response for the liaison, and we intend to send it to SA4.
Andrew Allen, just one little point. You say that RTC Web recommended. I think it was a bit stronger than recommended.
So it's what?
RTC Web is stronger than recommendation.
Stronger than recommendation.
Unfortunately, from my perspective.
Okay. Okay. So what is stronger word than from recommendation? Mandates. You think mandates that doesn't know any other. That's a small thing I can change in the.
Steve Oxford. I don't actually know that we need to talk about RTC Web at all unless they ask about it. You could just drop the sentence if they're
Okay. That was also a comment from.
That would be my advice. If
There
you
is
want
a-
to include it, then you could certainly include it. 7 and 11, because they're both mandated for speech.
Okay. The reason, okay, so just to clarify, the reason I had this is all these bullet points are coming from the SA4 document that was attached to the liaison, which stated what is their interest in. Okay, so that's what the question I tried to respond to. So the first part of it is what is CLUE about? So I can say CLUE is just leave the first sentence and delete and the first and second sentence and delete the rest of the sentence. That's okay also.
That would be my preference.
Okay, no problem with that. I can do that. That was this other suggestion to do that.
So Keith Drage +1 to that, and also, I mean, a lot of this stuff is actually not actually directly relevant to SA4 rather.
Okay.
It might be worth at least including the sentence that says, we understand that many of these drafts have already been endorsed by 3GPP in 3GPP TS 24103.
Okay, so can you send me this on email, this sentence? I will edit because, I mean, again, like I said before, this is not, this is something that we don't, I mean, we don't follow, I don't follow the 3GPP work, so I don't know the politics of the 3GPP and what's addressed in any of there, so I cannot say what's happening in 3GPP. I was trying to say just what's being done at the IETF.
No, but I mean, the documents are public, and you know.
Of course, but
therefore we do actually have available access to them.
I don't have problem having this sentence say that there was a comment that this is addressed. So just send me and I'll add this at the end the sentence saying there was a comment that this is also endorsing the. Okay.
Ben Campbell. I think I just heard you say you're pulling out the reference to RTC Web. Is that what was decided right before I got in front of the line?
No, I just said that I added the reference because
okay.
there was no reference.
So,
in the previous version, there was no reference.
But was there just a discussion to remove it again?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So what I'm about to say is probably moot. But if you're going to say the RTC Web is mandating codecs, be clear about mandatory to implement versus just mandatory.
So I think the conclusion was to delete this whole RTC Web section. So because it was addressed to CLUE and just don't have it. That's what we'll do.
To be clear, the sentence beginning at the IETF, the RTC Web Working Group recommended, that sentence is to be deleted.
Thank you. My name is Georg Meyer. You can call me George. That's easier usually. I'm also working with 3GPP. I'm the new city plenary chair. And I'm happy to see the sentence gone. I would also be very happy to see the LS being shorter, as Keith already indicated. Everything that can be easily read from the existing drafts, from the scope of them and so on, I think we can avoid here. Because what I know from the work in 3GPP, you send a long LS, they have interactions with other working groups, so there is a lot of hassle coming out of that. So I think we should really focus on those things that may be not totally clear from the draft so far because they haven't been incorporated. So I basically go along with what he said. Thank you very much.
Okay. Any other comments on that? I'm talking to the microphone, hopefully. Yeah, I noticed this now, that I hear it, but yeah, that's weird. Okay, so any other comments on that? Okay, so we'll revise it and as agreed, and we'll add. I send it on the mailing list. It's on the CLUE, it's in the CLUE mailing list, this document. But I will revise and change it, send it again also on the CLUE mailing list based on what was agreed, and I'll get a sentence from Keith about what to put as the note about what's being done in 3GPP. Okay, so this.
And I'll just say the response that Ronnie's talking about was sent 12 hours ago. Okay, so it's very recent onto the mailing list.
Okay, so. And I'm sorry about that. It was ready for a long time. I thought I sent it, but I figured out I didn't send it before. Okay, so we finished with the chair presentation, and now the next item is we're getting now. It's the CLUE protocol and data schema and the data model, and that's Simon.
Yes.
Is here.
How is it, Keith?
You weren't here, you know. There's a
Yeah,
ping box.
yeah.
That's
I'm
what
the
probably
first
your
volunteers.
request to have a ping box.
Yeah, sure.
And now you're not in the ping
Sorry.
box.
How about now? Okay. So a very quick update about the protocol and data model. I just put down some slides, and especially with respect to the data model, I just have one single slide because I think there's very little to discuss. We'll see now in this meeting, but really I think that there are not so many things that we still have to do in order to complete that document. As to the protocol, I will start with it. So next, please. There are some new things that we introduced in version 3 of the document. Basically, we tried to work on all of the comments that we gathered during the last meeting in Honolulu. And this has allowed us to make some alignment with all of the other documents, and this reflects in a couple of modifications inside the state machines, both the participant and the, let's say, producer and consumer state machines. Then I will just briefly discuss some preliminary feedback that I received on the mailing list, very useful feedback actually. The only thing is that I'm now working on that because I received the emails from the other guys on the mailing list just at the end of last week. So I see everybody's busy, and I had a look at the emails. I think they have plenty of useful information, and I'm not worried about the comments, by the way, because I think that they're all in line with what we were doing. So we will briefly discuss this, but this is really work in progress. So you have been warned. Next slide, please. Basically, the differences with respect to the previous version are associated with some modification inside the state machine of the participant. This is a simple one. We changed the terminated state and we renamed it as idle. This was an advice that we got from the working group, and it was okay. The most important thing is related to how we try and match the higher level CLUE protocol information to the lower layer signaling information. And so basically this relates to the discussion that we had about the SDP offer answer, which is clearly explained inside the signaling document and which had some impact on our state machines, which was, let's say, not as clear as it should be. Now we think that we have clarified this, and there is no SDP OA state anymore inside the higher level state machines. We had a thorough review of the signaling document before working on this, and we do believe that now they really match. They are really complementary, and they work quite correctly together. A minor thing that I would like to mention, I did not put anything in the slides because this is much more academic, so it's not the engineering work, but we are working on, let's say, properly studying the formal correctness of the protocol, and we are using some formal methods based on colored Petri nets, and I can say that we have good results in terms of safety of the protocol, in terms of capability to reach a safe termination state starting from whatever interaction you can envisage. So it's something that really looks quite stable now. And perhaps I will circulate some information about this on the mailing list in the next few weeks, because we are, let's say, bringing this work to an end right now. Okay, about the schema updates, these are minor things, and there are more things that have been suggested on the mailing list. We are basically embedding all of them. I will just briefly touch upon this particular point. Next, please. So this is how the CLUE participant looks like right now. It's very simple. This is the top layer state diagram, which, as you can see, embeds the lower layer media provider and media consumer state diagrams, which are, let's say, drilled down state diagrams. So this is the one that orchestrates the overall interaction when you are using CLUE and you have a CLUE-enabled device. So basically there is just the options phase, which is associated with negotiation of the CLUE session, and then when you transit to the active state, you can play either one of the two roles, media provider or media consumer, or both of them clearly. Next one, please. Also here, without digging too much into the details, the main modification is in the middle of this diagram, where we had the SDPOA box, which now has been removed because we are giving for granted, and this is explained in the document, we are giving for granted that there is behind the scenes some sort of SDP negotiation, which can happen in case you have to properly set up the CLUE session. But from the CLUE protocol perspective, you just see those states that are there. There are a couple of suggestions related to how to potentially optimize a bit these transitions, and I think that they are actually okay. I don't know if you had a look at these suggestions on the mailing list, but anyhow, I will come back with feedback on the mailing list related to this point. Next please. Okay, again, this is the media consumers state machine, which, by the way, I think is the more complicated one, but which now has been modified a bit. If you remember, there was all the discussion about the re-advertisement, and this has been removed from the protocol. And as a side note, I would also remark that we have had to remove the differential mechanism. Some of you has also suggested to bring it in again, but based on the discussion that we had in Honolulu, as I answered on the mailing list, I do believe that now it's time to converge, and perhaps we can leave that, let's say, aside for the moment. At least it was a nice improvement. We had been working on it, but I went through all of the discussion that we had, and my feeling was that there was no consensus on keeping that mechanism inside the protocol, and you can follow the thread on mailing list in order to check this out. Okay, next one please. Here I just tried to summarize the feedbacks that I received. Basically, there has been Christian, whom I thank, obviously, who provided a thorough review of the document. And basically, apart from pointing out some typos that were spread across the document, he also suggested some changes, which I would, let's say, classify as minor changes, all of which can be either accepted or partially, let's say, discussed and embedded in the document with some modifications. And he also, let's say, suggested to further align the terminology with the framework. And in fact, also here he was right, because there are a couple of terms that we keep on using which should be formally aligned with the document, the framework document. One for all, the CLUE capable device, and CLUE session instead of just telepresence session and things like that. Okay, next one please. Just one pointer to the data model. We did not publish the new version of the data model because we want to come out with the, let's say, last version, at least from our perspective, of such a document. There are just minor things that we have already aligned actually inside the schema. Apart from, again, typos in the text, there are some minor inconsistencies, again, with respect to the framework. There are things that we decided that should be set and fixed in a specific way, and the 07 version does not reflect these as of yet, because it was written before the very last discussions that we had. But this is, I would say, ready. I would like to come out with the new version of this document in, let's say, no more than a couple of weeks, and I would like to embed all of the comments that I gathered from all of you. Next one, please. Yeah, there were, yeah, just, okay, yeah, there were no more sentences about the feedback that we received here. Actually, the feedback was from both Christian Groves and Mark Duckworth, and Mark arrived second, and so he said that he was avoiding to repeat the main comments from Christian, but he added some useful further information, so thanks again. I'm already working on this, by the way. That's it.
Okay, so I think there was some other misalignment between the framework and the
some
data.
things related to spatial information. Yeah, it's already fixed in the work in progress version.
The maximum number of
exactly.
That was deleted.
You studied.
Yeah,
okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
so,
correct.
Okay, so.
Yeah, I mean, my general comment was I did not want to bore you with all of the nits and bits and the details, but I'm keeping track of all of them.
Okay, so when you're going to. Okay, so you're going to submit a new revision, the 08,
yeah,
just after the meeting, or when?
After the meeting.
Okay, so I think that what I would like to do now is we need to get a good reviews of those documents. We had reviews from Christian Groves and from Mark Duckworth, and we need more reviews. And I think when we talk about reviews, it's also applied to the signaling also. So I think that the protocol and signaling need to be reviewed. So someone who reviewing should review both documents together in order to verify that they are in line.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. So anyone who's volunteering to review these two documents? Mark, okay. I know that Mark will review and Christian will review, and of course we will review. But I'm looking for. I want names. So Mark said he will review, and of course I will review. And Robert, Robert and Jabber will review. So and
Bob Hansen.
Rob Hansen. But Rob Hansen, it's good because he's the author of the editor also of the signaling, so he can see the protocol to be in line with the signaling. Okay, but I would expect to look at both of them together to verify that they are consistent with each other.
Okay.
Okay, so we have Mark Duckworth, Rob Hansen. I didn't hear Paul saying anything. Paul's. Okay, so we'll volunteer Paul. I see Jonathan just ask him on the Javelin. And Paul says yes, okay, good. And you can write my name also on that for reviewing data, but that goes without saying. Okay, so this is about these two, and we will probably, there's an XML schema in the protocol, and there's SDP in the signaling, and we'll have to send them for directorate review, both of those documents. Not the data model, the signaling and the protocol are together. The data model stands by itself because all of them rely on that, but it's by itself. CLUE signaling, together with the CLUE signaling.
Yeah, let's say that protocol and signaling really walk hand in hand, I would say.
They complement each other. You need them, and that's why it's important.
Yep.
And what I said is that we intend to send the protocol to an XML review and the signaling to SDP review. That's the intention. And again, when people look at the signaling, they should look at also at the SDP, because there's a lot of SDP inside there. As for the data schema, we need also to review this one, and to review it to see that it's in line with the framework.
Yes.
With the framework document. And again, anyone who did not volunteer before is volunteering to look at to look at this big schema in the data model and see that that includes all the it's in line with the framework. Okay, and I hope the others who volunteered to do before will also spend some time to do the data model. And the data model will also need to go, and for the data model we'll wait first for version 08 and then we'll review that. So just after 08, and and after we'll get some of the initial reviews, we'll also send it to XML Directorate review, because this is a very big XML schema, and hopefully the next step will be to working with Call all those documents.
You know, big framework, big schema. You're forced to have a very big schema if you have a huge framework, as we have in CLUE.
Okay. Okay. And like you said, you also have a reference implementation for that, so that will be good when we send it to publication. At least there's one reference implementation.
So we're thinking working group last call. Sorry, Andrew Allen. We're thinking working group last call before the next IETF.
Yes, that's the plan. Again, we are dependent on people reviewing the documents now. We are talking about working group last call currently about these two drafts, because we are now talking about the data model and the protocol. But the same goes for the signaling, which will be both drafts. The data model, yes. The data model, yes. Like I mentioned before, we will try to finish all the working group documents before next meeting. It's ambitious. It depends on the reviewers, but at least I hope the people who are reviewing will spend the time now in order to do these reviews. So, as the first step, currently what can be reviewed is the protocol with the signaling, which are in a better shape, and the data model just after the publication of the 08 version. Okay?
Yep.
Okay. Any other comments on these two documents? Any issues people want to say about those? Nothing in the jabber. Okay. So
thank you, guys.
Thank you, and thank you for all your work. I mean, it's
no problem.
This is very meaningful.
It's my pleasure.
To finish the work here.
Our pleasure.
Okay. Don't move, don't breathe. Okay, so I'm standing in the box. CLUE signaling. The change. I'm doing it for Rob, who was not able to attend the meeting, but he's in the Jabber room, and he will continue to be the editor of the document. So we are thankful for all his effort, and I hope he will have the time to finish all of it, this document too. So the changes in the 05 version, SRTP DTLS made mandatory for CLUE control media lines. That was a change from last meeting. The YANA section added based on text proposed by Christian Groves. It includes permission to use the same encoding ID label value on multiple M lines for M lines of dependent streams. So that's mostly for the simulcast stuff, as far as I remember. And there are some syntax improvements. And next slide. Since then, we had comments from Christian and Paul Kizavit. Main outstanding issues need to update the negotiation detail to use draft IETF and music data channel SDP and EG to negotiate the data channel. And this was based on the plan that was decided in the previous IETF meeting to use this negotiation instead of the ones used before as by RTC Web. What's it called? I forgot the name for that one. The negotiation that RTC Web is using. Yeah.
Relaying for Rob Hansen, he suggests that just reference the data channel document rather than update this. Basically, just have this document.
That makes sense, but at least the text should be consistent when you're describing how you decide that this is a clue call, clue capable call based on this information, because you know it from the SDP that it's going to be done open for clue, and that's part of the change we made there. Yes, Christian.
Mr. Holmer, yes. What was the reason for mandating the DTLS for SMCP? You had it on the previous slide.
I think that was.
Is it mandatory to support, mandatory to use? What?
Can Rob answer that one? I don't remember what was the.
Rob says DTLS is made mandatory to use, and John Clinton speaking individualized would be very wide also. It seems like that seems. I mean, I understand that motto, but it seems a bit strong.
So what's your point here, Jonathan?
But I mean, yeah, mandatory to support, absolutely, but I mean, mandatory. I mean, maybe mandatory to use is the right answer. But I feel like that's actually been discussed as it is.
Okay, so first of all, we have to look at what was the agreement in the notes that we had before, because I don't remember the.
But Rob responds to me saying, DTLS has been mandatory to use to avoid the voice hammer attack and general increased security. But I mean, I think that using ICE is sufficient to avoid voice hammer. We don't want to mandate ICE, but he says we have one IETF.
So that's why I said we can look at the notes. I assume it has to do that we felt that it will not go if we don't have something about use of DTLS SRTP in the document for the media.
I mean, we can have in the security consideration, we can write all that stuff, but I don't think we should mandate it. I mean, if there's a general trend of security, yes, but it's not the right thing to do it for clue. I mean, this is nothing clue specific. And for example, in 3GPP does refer to this, and I don't think the 3GP, for example, has mandate for DTLS at the media resource functions in the core network and so on. So then you're going to have issues.
Okay,
with that,
so that's why you said that's why you mentioned that it should be mandatory to support and not mandatory.
Well, that was a question. I don't think we need to say anything in the security consideration. We can have text describing all this. Yes, it's recommended, blah blah blah, and this was going to happen if you don't do it. But I don't think it's up to CLUE to mandate. There is nothing CLUE specific reason to mandate DTLS.
Okay, Adam?
This is Adam Roach. That seems pretty backwards. We have, I mean, in other working groups, in like more modern working groups that sort of understand what the sort of political environment on the internet is now, we've gone ahead and said, no, this has to be encrypted. Because we know now more about what's going on in the world than we did when we started doing, descriptions and stuff in SIP. I'm not sure why we would include decide taking this in a different direction than we did, for example, in WebRTC.
Adam, that's one interpretation. A different interpretation would be there is a general trend of political activism in this organization that made us making stupid decisions.
Adam Roche again. So you can interpret it how you want, but I think we actually have some relatively clear guidance from the IASG here around how we should be designing protocols, and this is in line with it. So, I mean, if you want to take this to the plenary, we do have sessions for that.
I think that what Adam is saying is that we can write anything we want. It will go to the ISG and come back to us with some other recommendation about what to do, and we won't have a choice. So it doesn't matter. We can write nothing, and then we can kick back and say you have to write something about it. So that's the current, and like you said, that's the current status. What's happening in the here? Yes, sir.
Richard Barnes, to add yet a third interpretation to the zeitgeist. It seems to me, the way I read the IESG and IAB statements on this topic, that their suggestion is that the default for new stuff needs to be security, and that you could argue for having an insecure mode if you really need one. And that seems like also an appropriate approach for this document. So, you know, there's obviously must support DTLS's RTP, right, because that is the secure mode. I think it would be worth having a discussion here about why other modes might be necessary and what levels of requirement they should have.
It goes back to discussion we have, because we have a document about security for RTP, and we were saying why it's not mandated to use RTP when you define payloads, because there may be different mechanisms by which you can secure it. Not necessarily need to use DTLS. You can use other layers and security which will make it secure, and you won't do that, and it's up to the implementation. So, but I think in this case where we are doing solution, probably we will, at least we should say that we should be supported. That's what my belief is. Yes,
Mark, of course. I just wanted to point out that we also had this same discussion with regards to the security section in the framework document. And the framework document currently says that the SRTP DTLS must be supported. It does not say it must be used.
Okay.
I thought that's what the
Okay.
So if we mention it in both documents, we probably ought to say the same thing.
Okay.
Jonathan, I mean, again, I'm not positive that this is. I mean, it's possible this is still the right thing to say, but I mean, I guess the case I would be considering is that CLUE is. I mean, I think people would expect it would be used not only on the public internet, where absolutely DTLS SRTP should be mandatory, but also in private environments where I think the need for it is somewhat less compelling, though. Given Teresa's monitoring, I'm not sure it's as less compelling as we once thought it was. So, I mean, I think that. So, I mean, I 100% agree with mandatory to implement. I guess my other concern would be is if, I mean, we've gone to some trouble to make CLUE work with, to structure all the SBP to work with a lot of, you know, legacy middle boxes, and using SRP DTLS everywhere would break that. I mean, hopefully those will be updated to support this soon, but I'm not sure about it.
As far as I remember, the protocol document does not currently, because then we had a question: do we need to use CAPNEG and so on to offer both? But I guess it's okay. You can offer the SRTP, and just I mean. You don't need to offer both. I mean, that's an implementation issue, and I have no issue. I mean, I agree that it should be secure and so on. But like others said, there are environments where security, for example, is provided other means. So we should have strong words about this. Absolutely. Otherwise, it's gonna, you know, end up in ISG anyway. So.
Okay, so my suggestion, we'll look at and send to the list the current, what the text say, and say, look, if it's okay. What I get is that the preference is to have must be supported and not must be used. That's what the preference here is, and supported. Yeah, supported means that there can be other that it's supported, but the usage is based on what you're using for security, based on the specific environment and the implementations.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, I think part of it is simply is that better? Okay. Since we have to be highly interoperable with SIP anyway, you know, I mean, you could just simply not negotiate CLUE and end up with ordinary unencrypted RTP. So, you know, I think it seems fine to me to say that it's somehow strongly recommended or even mandatory to implement, but I don't necessarily understand the mandatory thing, since it's an optional protocol, basically in a SIP call.
Okay. Next slide. It's going to the list, but I will send. We will cut the text from the current text. We look at the current text and see that addresses the concerns that people had. Yeah. Okay. Excellent. Okay, so the next step is to produce version 06 with identified issues fixed, and of course to do working group plus call, and that goes, and that's a signaling. That's what I said. It goes together with the protocol, and we have the reviewers to review that those two documents, and hopefully we'll be able to soon start a working group plus call. Any other issues people want to say about the signaling? Anything on the Java? Jonathan?
Rob says he'll send the current text and proposed changes to us.
Okay. Okay. Because both authors are not here, both Rob and Paul, so that's why we need to see them on the journal. Okay. Thank you for this one, and I'm staying here for the next presentation. It's very RTP mapping. So we have a 04 version of the document. I'm still in the box. The status, the new version describes RTP usage in CLUE and mapping to CLUE. We did some text changes in order to be more in line with the topologies, and hopefully the text is clearer now. In order to associate the media in the different protocol, there are 3 mapping that needs to be specified. CLUE individual encoding to SDP is done using the label attribute in the SDP and the encode ID. The RTP media streams to SDP, this is not a CLUE specific mapping. For bundle, it's done using the SDP mid attribute. And the last one is the RTP media stream to MC to map the received RTP stream to the current MC in the MCC. That has to do with the way MCC is constructed, because it's point to an MC, but you don't know which one it is. So we needed to define some identifier that will allow you to know which MC is currently being used inside this MCC. Next slide. So for mapping an RTP stream to a specific MC in the MCC, the CLUE capture ID is used. The media sender must send for MCC the capture ID in the RTP header and as a RTCP SDS messages. The document defines these 2 extensions, and they are already being referenced in the signaling and in the, I think also in the data. I think I saw them also in the data model. It's there. This identifier that's being used. So these are the major changes. The state of the document needs some. I think we will do another editorial review. We don't have a security section, so we need to add a security section to the document, which we'll do after the meeting. And is there another slide, or this is the last slide? And so that's what I said. There's a final editorial work needed, and after that it will be ready also for working group last call. did anyone read this document lately? The last version? I think I did it about a month ago, right, Jonathan? Yeah, something like that. The 04 is okay. So we will need also volunteers here to review this document. At least after we put the next revision, the 05 volunteers. Okay, Mark. Anyone else? Christian, you're too far. Put Christian there. He will read this document. He likes to read documents. On the spinning. Okay. So that sounds reasonable. Okay, so this is the plan for this document. Okay. So I think this is the last presentation we had. Okay, so this is the last presentation, and as we can see, we don't have much to. I don't think we have much to discuss more in this meeting. So I think what we will do, we'll cancel the Thursday session, and the last thing that we would like, we will do what? Yeah.
Georg Meyer again. Just one question on the Thursday session. I'm fine with cancelling it if there's nothing else. But if there's something else, it would be good maybe to have another look at the outgoing LS. Or maybe it would be good to
We'll do it on the list. We'll send
we can do it also on the list.
I'll send it to the list and get comment. I'll do it today. I'll send the revised version today on the list. Please look at it and
didn't want to push. I just wanted to
and wait for response for that.
Okay, thank you very much.
There's no need for a session for that.
Richard Barnes, in light of the earlier conversation about DCL SSRTP, I wonder if it might be worth grabbing some of the folks who are working on WebRTC and that stuff and see if we can hammer out the precise shape of the security requirements. Might be a productive use of the session. That might only be a 15 to 30 minute presentation. It seems like it could be a useful use of face-to-face time.
Yeah, but that's offline. Yeah, that's okay. The problem is that the problem is that we don't have both Rob and Paul here in the meeting, so they won't be able to be part of the if we do it offline, it will be too complicated for us to do that. But we'll think about it. Okay, so I think and the last thing we will try to do is we will try to prepare some timeline for finishing the work and send it and prepare it and send it to the list. I think that's something we should do, and we'll try to be more precise in terms of months in order to be able to finish last call before July. I hope it's not too ambitious. I mean, someone thinks that we cannot finish it by July, the work here, and close this working group. Simon is the one. Oh, which year? Okay. I think I'm looking at Simon because we are dependent a lot on Simon, and in Italy they have a lot of vacations.
I was just going. I was going to say, practically speaking, July means having it done by May or June, really. So that means that any changes need to get done right away, and reviews need to start really within a few weeks.
So we'll be more active on the list and try to encourage. We have the list of people who showed interest in reviewing, and we'll start to ping them and try to make it happen faster.
Yeah, I Keith, do you have the list of names? Just to... Are you able to do it at the mic, or do you just want me to repeat from here?
Okay, so CLUE protocol, I've got Robert Hanson, Mark Duckworth, and Paul Kizovit. XML schema, I didn't actually collect. Oh, I just collected the name of Dan Burnett on that one. No one else, I think.
Yeah,
Okay,
Rob
let me
did
just
as well.
add that. The CLUE signaling. I don't have any extra names for that.
It's the same names as the protocol, because
Okay.
they will be reviewed together. And I will review them also. I mean, you didn't put my name, but I will review all of them.
Do you want me to put your name? Okay. And then the RTP mapping, I've got Krista Holmberg and Rob Hansen.
And Jonathan, maybe. The mapping. So, Paul, you have the last minute volunteers. Krista said signaling, right?
Signaling list is all from the protocol draft, all reviewers from the protocol draft, plus Krista Holmberg, plus Paul Kizovit, did I just hear?
Paul, what did he say? Jonathan, Paul? Yeah. Signaling is a co-author. And Christian is not on the list, but I probably assume he will continue to review the documents, and we'll ask him. Christian Groves. Yeah, I see that. Paul said okay also. For protocol. Yeah. So, okay, so we have a list, so we'll get the names, and we will be okay. So we'll publish this. As the conclusion, we'll send all this information about the full review, and we'll try to set a timeline and try to finish.
So I have a question along those lines. I know that sometimes people request not to have reviews at the same time. I'm just sort of looking in the room for like head nods or whatever here. Would it be helpful to actually try to spread these out in a particular way, or would it be better to I mean, I'll just ask both, I guess. And or would it be better to just get to them as we are able to, meaning as the documents are ready? So I'm just looking for any general opinions on this.
I think the point that we were making before is that the protocol and signaling are tied together.
I understand that.
And they can be reviewed. For the data model, we are waiting for a revision. And for the RTP mapping, we'll have another revision before we want to review. So that will be the order.
Okay, that's fine. I just I sometimes see groups try to schedule reviews and end up failing on the scheduling of the review. You know, if you do it basically when the drafts are ready, rather than saying, well, this draft is going to be this week and this other draft is going to be this week, then half the time the reviews don't come in during that time period.
Okay, so if there are no other issues that we want to discuss, I think we'll finish here this meeting. And hopefully we won't need to have a CLUE meeting in the next IETF, and we'll just be able to celebrate the closing of the work group. Good objective. Okay. I think that's why they selected new chairs, so we'll close the working group. Okay. Thank you all, and see you in the next sessions.
I think everyone signed the blue sheets, but in case you didn't, please come up and do that.